Hi folks, the Filipina P here. And today I'm gonna burst a few bubbles and throw cold water on a lot of people's dreams, but it's time to wake up and look at the way things really are, not the way you want them to be. The Philippines has a lot to offer, but it also asks a lot in return, and it's crucial that you understand what you're getting into. Many people find happiness here, but for others, the bloom is off the rose. For the first time since 2011, the Philippines is no longer ranked in the top 10 places to retire. And here's why. A few years ago, I did a video called Do Not Retire in the Philippines, and I caught a lot of hell from both Filipinos and even some of the foreigners living here. They said I wasn't being fair and that I painted the country in a bad light, which is interesting because when I say something nice about the Philippines, I'm accused of trying to make it look better than it really is. And when I tell it like it really is, I get accused of being mean. The truth is, there's good and bad here, just like anywhere else on earth. But what I've never said, not even once, is that life in the Philippines is perfect. Far from it. In fact, I was one of the first channels to break the mold of talking about how great everything was. It's actually one of the reasons I started vlogging, because I felt like people weren't getting the actual picture. So have things gotten better since then, or worse? Well, as I mentioned in the opening, for the first time in over a decade, the Philippines is no longer on Forbes magazine's list of the top 10 places to retire. So at first glance, it sounds like things are going downhill. But as it turns out, the reason the Philippines didn't make the list this time is partly because Forbes started taking things like natural hazards into consideration, and the risk of climate change and its effects on marginalized groups, which isn't really something that's likely to affect your stay. But that doesn't mean the Philippines deserves to be back on the list, and I'm going to talk about the things that keep dragging us down. Prices have risen, but they've gone up where you live too. So what are all these negatives I'm talking about, and why do you need to be warned? Most people who vacation here have a great time and talk about the beautiful beaches and all the smiling people. So what more do you need? Well, I recently did a poll that got over 10,000 responses, and it showed that the reason most guys come to the Philippines is to find a mate. Now, that's obviously not true for everyone. Some of you come here for economic reasons, but the majority are looking for something more. So am I saying there's something wrong with the dating scene? Are too many foreigners pouring into the country, ruining the women, and now there aren't any good ones left? I've actually heard that before, and in my opinion, that's ridiculous. You guys represent only a tiny fraction of the population, and you really don't have that much effect on things. The average Filipina has never even dated a foreign man, and it's not like there's a shortage of suitable mates. I can imagine what it's like from your perspective, though, where you probably imagine hordes of men storming the border and taking all the good women, and by the time you get here, there'll be nothing left. But no, that's just not the case. There are plenty of women who are happy to date you, and not just to rip you off or take your money. Now, I often get accused of promoting Filipinas, like I'm trying to sell something. But the fact is, the promise of finding a good companion is one of our biggest pluses, and it's something most of you crave, companionship. So, of course, that's something I often focus on. If you guys were interested in finding gold nuggets, and we had a lot of those, then my channel would be about helping you find the best places to dig. But yes, I'm going to continue talking about the good and bad traits of Filipinas, because that's one of the best things we have going for us. So if it's not the beaches or the smiling women, then what's the problem? Well, the problem is a battle you're gonna have within yourself. You know how you see a new car and you really, really want it? It's shiny, it's different, and it smells so good. You're tired of your old clunker, and when you test drive the new one, it even makes you feel younger, so you just gotta have it. And at first, it's everything you imagined. But after a while, it just becomes a car. And instead of seeing how cool it is, you see what it actually cost you to have it. The high monthly payments, the maintenance, and the outrageous insurance premiums. Maybe your old car wasn't so bad after all. That's how it can be when you first get here. It's all sun and sand and happy people. And just like when you drove around town in your new car, the folks back home sure are jealous as they watch you riding off into a tropical paradise. But there's a hidden cost. Not so much in money, but in quality of life. Now, when you talk about quality of life, it's usually in terms of good or bad. But in this case, it's more about the quality of life that suits you. The Philippines might suit you just fine, or it may not. 90% of the time, though, it's gonna start off like that new car. Everything will seem new to you, with little surprises around every corner. And at first, they seem like nice surprises. You'll find yourself saying things like, "Oh, look at that cute little doggy. It must be so relaxing here because it's sleeping right in the middle of the street." A year from now, you'll be going, "Damn it, get out of the road, you mangy mutt. Why can't these people control their animals?" At first, you'll enjoy the pitter-patter of the rain on the tin roof as it reminds you of how close you are to nature. But a few months later, you'll be bitching about not being able to hear the TV every time it rains and wondering if Filipinos have ever heard of insulation. You'll love trying all the new food, but once you've had enough pork and rice and pork, chicken and rice, chicken and pork, fried chicken and rice, fried rice and pork, you'll seriously consider becoming a Muslim just to change the menu. And at first, it might fill your heart with joy to hear the sound of music on the evening breeze. The people are so happy. They're lifting their voices in song, even at night. Yeah, I'll check back with you in a few months and find you holed up in a closet with a crazy look in your face, like Daryl from The Walking Dead after listening to Easy Street for the 5 millionth time. That's what happens when you hear the same song over and over and over again, just like in the Philippines. And there's no way to escape it, because like I said, there's no insulation. And every time I hear one of you guys tell me about your admiration for Filipino family values and how you wish you had such a close-knit family, I know right away that you haven't been here long enough. 2 months of having Uncle Ernesto living on your couch after his wife kicked him out because of his drinking problem is enough to cure anyone of that sentiment. And by the way, you're out of rum. As far as the slower pace of life, it might feel relaxing after living at 90 miles an hour with your hair on fire. But if you're one of those people that likes the saying, "time is money," then plan on going broke. Most Filipinos have the mistaken impression that time is both worthless and limitless. And some of you older guys know what a lie that is. You might resent spending precious hours just waiting on other people to do simple things. And it can make you feel like they're running out the time on your clock. Or you might love the slower pace. You're not in a hurry anyway, so take all the time you need. It's all about how you look at it. And just like the saying, "beauty is in the eye of the beholder," the one beholding the beauty of the Philippines is you. It's kind of like a painting. No two people see the same thing. And what's a masterpiece to one person is just a crude blob of paint to another. You might see a masterpiece when you first get here and downplay life's little annoyances. But the longer you stay, the more it wears on you. And the more those little annoyances can become soul-crushing deal breakers. In the Philippines, the new car smell takes about a year to wear off, give or take. So let's go over some of the most common sources of irritation and the things that won't be so much fun once you're living here full-time. Since it's a major consideration, let's start with the cost of living. Now, it might seem like this is a cut-and-dried issue. Either it's cheaper or it's not. But if you just look in the comments section, you'll see people saying the exact opposite things. One guy says, "Wow, I can live great on just $1,000. While the next guy says, "There's no way you can have a decent life in the Philippines for less than $3,000 a month." So which is it? Who knows? It all depends on you and the kind of life that'll make you happy. Some things are definitely cheaper, like your rent, which is a huge chunk of your budget. I know a guy who lives in a 5-bedroom mansion with a giant pool and is only paying $1,600 a month. Try finding that back home. On the flip side, most places aren't built to Western standards, so it's really not an apples-to-apples comparison. Like I mentioned before, we don't use a lot of insulation. We often don't ground our electrical stuff. We sometimes don't even have kitchen cabinets or dishwashers, and you can forget about stuff like central AC. If that stuff doesn't bother you, then great. But if you're used to the finer things in life, you're gonna have to pay a lot more, which makes the Philippines lose some of its competitive edge when it comes to things like rent. Services are cheaper too because labor is so inexpensive. Medical care, legal advice, and auto repair are only a fraction of what you pay back home. But again, you sometimes get what you pay for. Phone service is pretty cheap too, but good luck making a simple call across town that doesn't sound like the other person's got a mouthful of gravel. You can have the latest iPhone, but what good is it when the service sucks? Generally speaking, anything that requires labor is gonna be a lot less expensive, but products, things you can touch, are gonna be more expensive. Sometimes a lot more expensive. Things like vacuum cleaners, washers and dryers, or even TVs can cost you almost twice as much. So if you're thinking you can have the same standard of living you had back home, only cheaper, it just doesn't work that way. Even if you have more money than you know what to do with, in which case, give me a call. You still won't be able to have all the things you had before. This is a country where you literally cannot buy happiness. Depending on how you live and what you're willing to sacrifice, and yes, you will sacrifice, you might even find out that the Philippines isn't really that much cheaper after all. Now, if you want to live a no-frills life without any modern conveniences, then you can live on much less than you can in the West. But the more you try to recreate your old life, the more expensive it's gonna be. So what about the weather? A lot of you guys seem really concerned about it. And yes, it's brutally hot most of the year. But even if you melt as fast as Frosty the Snowman, there's almost always an air-conditioned room close by, if you can afford it. The good thing is, the heat usually becomes less of a problem the longer you're here, because your body adapts to it. Now, if you're talking about natural disasters, we have plenty of those. But if you stay away from high-risk places, it's not really a big deal. The only time the weather's gonna make you wish you were back home is when the power goes out on a hot day, which it frequently does. And when that happens, there's no help for poor Frosty. It's not true in all places, especially the big cities. But if you live in a rural area, get ready to go without power at the most inconvenient times. Like when you crank up the AC and snuggle under the covers, or turn on the TV to catch a live sporting event, or you just hit upload when you only have 10 minutes until your video is supposed to release. Trust me, I know. So the infrastructure of the Philippines just isn't that great. From the phones, to the power, to the roads. And it's gonna cause you a lot of delays and frustration. We're just not built for efficiency, and every step you take is gonna feel like you're walking in quicksand. The more you fight it, the faster you'll sink. And no matter how you rage, it isn't gonna be changing anytime soon. The only thing you can do is accept it, and if you can't, the Philippines will grind you down. But what about one of the biggest positives? Our use of English. It's a major reason why we made the list of good retirement destinations in the first place. Well, it's true that we mostly all speak some English, and that makes it a lot easier in dealing with people. But it doesn't mean you're gonna feel connected to them, because it takes more than using common words to form a bond. You might find it easy to bond with your Filipina, but you guys are using more than just language to form a relationship. Watch what happens when you try to make Filipino friends. It can be done, but most foreign guys who live here confess that they don't really have many local friends. They either hang out with other foreigners or they get to know their in-laws and the rest of their family. But that's about it. Now that might sound like paradise to someone who's more introverted and doesn't want to be around people anyway. But an extroverted person who relies on other people for their oxygen might just suffocate here. It's not just language that separates us. It's a totally different culture. You might discover that it's not easy to find things to talk about. And if you're a social butterfly, prepare to have your wings clipped. So what to do with all your free time? Well, if you're thinking of starting a business, I advise against it, unless it's something really small scale with a low startup cost. The road of foreigners' entrepreneurial dreams is paved with business failures, and your chances of success are minimal at best. How do you become a millionaire in the Philippines? Bring 2 million with you. Now that's an old joke that everyone's heard, and that should tell you something. But you can't work anyway without having the right visa. And that brings us to another way the Philippines is now less attractive because the system isn't as foreign friendly when compared to some other countries. It used to be easier here, and it might be again in the future. But for right now, if you're here on a tourist visa, it'll feel like the government is constantly looking over your shoulder. You can't extend your visa for 6 months anymore. And every 60 days, you'll find yourself sitting at the Bureau of Immigration, filling out more paperwork and paying more fees. It's supposed to be temporary, but until it's fixed, it's just one more hurdle you gotta jump, and another major inconvenience. And I could spend another hour on all the other things that'll drive you nuts. Things that seemed okay at first, but ultimately get under your skin. The lack of customer service, the constant barking of dogs and crowing of roosters, the insanely slow traffic, the impossibly long lines, the sick animals, the piles of trash and dirt, the mindless red tape, running from place to place to get a form so you can get another form that they won't give you until you get a different form in a never-ending catch-22. But I want to finish the list with the thing that'll really weigh on your soul: the poverty. We all know that the Philippines is a poor country, and it's something that's gonna stare you in the face every time you go out your front door. They might be wearing smiles as they hold out their hands, but they're people in desperate trouble. If you're anything like me, you do your absolute best to help. But no matter what we do, the problem just won't go away. Every time I see someone like that, it leaves a mental scar, an image I can't forget. But too many scars like that, and you can become immune to it, and that scares me the most. We need to see these people as a reminder of the work that remains to be done. If we learn to look past them, we risk losing what makes us human. I've heard from a lot of you folks about this, and I really don't have an answer. But those of you who've been here know what I'm talking about. Now let me say once again, people react in different ways to the Philippines, and you might be one of those people that aren't turned off by any of the things I just mentioned. A lot of people are very happy here, and just like the painting we talked about, they see something completely different than you might. I love this country, but I'm the first to admit that it needs a lot of changes. So many guys come here with that new country energy boost and make their decisions while they're not thinking clearly. They meet a woman right off the bat, settle down, have kids, or try to start a business. And then when the mirage evaporates, they realize they're trapped. They can still physically leave, but not without significant cost. Once you've fallen in love, it becomes a lot harder to extricate yourself. And if you decide to pack up and go, you got a big problem. You probably already know the risk involved when bringing a Filipino back to the West. Unless you take a lot of time to vet the relationship, you're not only courting her, you're courting disaster. Another option, one that doesn't get mentioned enough, is to try a different country together, like Thailand or Vietnam. You'll both be on equal footing as far as the language, which often brings you even closer together as you discover a brand new world. The problem is, she might not want to go somewhere like that, so you might have to do some fancy negotiating to find a place that suits you both. But like I've said from the very beginning of my channel 5 years ago, the first thing you need to do before jumping on the dating sites or falling in love or picking out a place you want to live is just to come here with no expectations. It might take 6 months or it might take a year, but test drive the Philippines until you're sure that new car smell is completely worn off, and then take a good look at your surroundings after the dust settles. Is this really where you want to be? If it is, then welcome to a brand new way of life. If it's not, then I hope you had an interesting test drive and it's time for you to try somewhere else until you find a place that fits. Well, that's it for this episode, and I'll be back on Tuesday with something unexpected. I've got many places to visit, and I'll be bringing you my adventures as they happen. Till next time, folks. If you think about it, I'm kind of like your stewardess, making sure you stay in an upright position during the video and guiding you to the exits. The exits of all your worries about life in the Philippines. The captain has asked that you give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you're on time for your next departure. If you really want to be the wind beneath my wings, check out my Patreon page for extra content and exclusive videos and features. For your entertainment, we also have a selection of other in-flight movies for you to enjoy. In the case of an emergency landing, place your head between your knees and kiss your ass goodbye. Have a nice flight!